Recently, an AMD patent for a CPU with an integrated FPGA or field programmable gate array, which was filed in June of 2019, surfaced. On a basic level, an FPGA can be described as an integrated circuit which can be programmed to change its function after production. This is especially interesting considering the recent acquisition of Xilinx, the FPGA market leader, by AMD. Let's take a quick look at what CEO Dr. Lisa Su had to say on the acquisition.
You know that I'm always in for the long term. We built our sort of foundation, sort of the base AMD business on just, thinking, very carefully about what's going to happen in the industry over the next 5 years, right? So that's how we decided to lean into data centers. That's the strength of the PC market, the strength of the gaming market. What Xilinx brings is, really very additive to the AMD models.
Now, this is of course a strategic decision with a lot of goals, but here's what I think this could mean for consumer CPUs. But first, let's take a quick look at the patent. Now, I don't want to get too much into it, but the title does already sum it up nicely. So what we are essentially talking about is one or more additional FPGA-based execution units inside the CPU which share the registers with the integer and floating point units. Here's one of AMD's Zen 3 slides I modified a bit to illustrate it a bit better. I've also put a link to the patent in the video description down below, so you can read it for yourself. Now, this could be seen as a way of simplifying CPUs by getting rid of legacy and rarely used functions which take up valuable die space by replacing them with general-purpose FPGA units. Those units can then be programmed to perform those removed legacy and rarely used functions, as well as be configured to accelerate a multitude of modern and frequently used ones. Basically, you move from specialized die space to general purpose, debloating the CPU design while still having an option to full backwards compatibility. Now, this would probably be slower than having fully fixed function hardware components on the chip, but the great thing is this would still be a lot faster than emulating via software. And it's definitely a lot smarter than adding something like an AVX512 extension. Let's think about what this could mean. You could possibly run ARM, RISC-V, or basically any non-native program without the downsides of software emulation or the requirement of additional fixed function hardware for emulation. Plus, if you don't use the FPGA units for legacy tasks or hardware emulation, they can simply be reconfigured to accelerate modern workloads or even allow developers to basically write their own specialized instructions directly for the FPGA units. Now, Intel has already done something similar, but it's not the same as the FPGA was not directly integrated into a CPU. This was in the Xeon 6138P. In this CPU, the FPGA was basically another chiplet connected via a cache-coherent interface. This was in 2018, and so far we haven't seen it in consumer-level products. Maybe there are problems with this and it simply doesn't work good enough, or it's simply not worth it. But who knows? Honestly, this is one of the most interesting things to happen in CPU design, as it is finally something new, and it gets me very excited for the future as I really hope this works. But let's be honest here, even if it works, it's likely still a few years away. My guess would be around 2024 at the earliest. The sources for this video are linked down below. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.